Hello, friends, and welcome to the CUInsight Network. My name is Randy Smith. I'm one of the co-founders of CUInsight.com, also the host of the CUInsight Experience podcast. And it is my job as the host of this show to talk to the thought leaders who support the credit union community, to have conversations with them, identify a few issues, and see if we can't find a few of those nuggets and make us a little smarter and make our credit unions a little better. I'm really excited today. I will tell you, for the guest on the show, we were just talking before we hit record. I think this is going to be an amazing episode. My guest is Joe Salesky. Joe is the CEO of CRMNEXT, and something on their website had me so excited to have Joe on the show today, which I will get to later. But Joe, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Randy, and thank you to CUInsight for what you're doing to really help credit unions, compete in what is a incredibly important fight, to really help consumers. So I appreciate being on, and I hope that there's some takeaways from this that help your listeners, really put into action the things that transform and enable team members to better serve members and grow relationships and become the preferred partner for people's financial health.
My guess is that's going to happen. I'd like to start with getting a little background on you. Most of us didn't grow up saying, "Hey, someday I want to be in credit unions." When you were a kid, what'd you want to be when you grew up, and what was the path, and the inspiration behind CRMNEXT and becoming the CEO?
So well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, my path was, as you said, we didn't even know about credit unions, but I did find out about them pretty early in life. So, I grew up being pretty handy and liking to build things and fix things, and was attracted to woodworking and welding, and I got to university and I thought I was going to be a civil engineer and build things, and I really found it was there was all this time permitting and I happened to follow a pretty girl into the computer center and found out about technology and really realized that you could build anything that you could imagine, and you didn't have to go to the lumber yard, you didn't have to buy steel, the tool was your imagination and your commitment. And so that really started me. So I have a background in econ finance and computer science, and really started my journey after working for the university and my first interactions there with a credit union to really help transform financial services. And I've been my entire career in looking at how do we simplify work, and you'll find that's in what CRMNEXT is very much about. How do we empower growth and how do we deliver on experience? And those things have been across the fabric of that career. But it is funny because I'm still a builder at heart, and and the goal is to build value and solve problems, and sort of the fixer too.
That's pretty cool. A question I wanted to ask everybody when we were doing this, just right off the bat, in case people are watching who don't know. Let's pretend you and I are at a conference together. Give me the elevator pitch. What is CRMNEXT, and what's the value you add to credit unions?
Yeah, so we are the relationship multiplier. If you really look at CRMNEXT and what makes us different, credit unions have been built a product at a time and a system at a time. So you have your share account, you have loans, you have online banking, you have mobile banking. There's been these systems, ATM. There's been a lot of systems added on, and you end up with this. How do you know the member? And how do you serve the member? And to really, so CRMNEXT is really all about simplifying work, that empowers both the team member and the member, to better, get done what they need to get done. That's going to help empower growth, growth in the value in a relationship, growth in the way that people value the relationships. So taking out the friction for a member to go, to have a beginning of a relationship and for you to know them better and even pre-approve, other products for them. And then, really delivering on the experience. It really is, how do we truly have it feel like the credit union is one organization that truly knows the member. And how do we prove that in the interactions? And I think that that's, CRMNEXT really is, the relationship multiplier, and and we're really helping people organize, unify, and transform. And we can talk more about the hows of that, but my favorite example is, take a look at your asset growth and take a look at your headcount growth. And the most valuable asset that you have at the credit union, I know we all think it's the members, but it's also the team.
Yeah.
How do we get it to where your assets can grow without you having to grow headcount? How do we make it so that value can grow? Because in a credit union, we're not selling shoes, right? We're building a financial relationship, and once a product goes in force, we have to service it. And how do we empower the team to do more for the member, grow the relationship, and even, deliver on the smart relationships that we want in the future, and, take out friction, and simplify that work. And, as I say, there's some very simple examples there. So frequently members call in about a case, or I lost my ATM card, right? And, and then are they getting an update? Do they have to call in, or does a team member have to call that member? No, I mean, we'll use some very simple use cases on, as great examples, but then there's the more robust future of the credit union, and how do we, make technology, the tool that helps them be more competitive with the McDonald's of banking, right?
Absolutely.
And so hopefully that's more than just a quick elevator pitch, but
it gives us a lot of directions to go. I love it. There was a line that I saw on your website that I think it ties into this, but I'm going to look down and read it because I don't want to get it wrong. And I took a chunk of it out, but it said to eliminate the barriers between human and digital channels. What does that mean, and what does that tie into what you were just saying? And what does that look like today?
It does. So, again, we'll start with, core. It very frequently is the center of a relationship, right? But and then we bolted on online banking and mobile banking. We bolted on other things. We're putting stuff in core notes. I very frequently say people's core becomes like their garage. It becomes the place that everything goes that doesn't have a home someplace else, and so you're really coming down to that. Core is still going to be your transactional infrastructure, right? But does it understand the opportunity with the member? Does it understand the other things that are going on with that member? And how do we simplify work, whether it's in the member's hands? So, my part of my journey is I did the mobile banking for 9 of the top 12 US banks and across a number of the credit unions. Many people know Navy Federal and BCU and others, but, across that spectrum. And, mobile banking was really everybody looked at it was, oh, it's internet banking on the phone. And I said, no. That's just internet banking on the phone. Mobile banking is also about alerts. And really, how do we have the member worry less? How do we help them become aware of an issue before it's a problem? So alerts were really part of mobile banking and part of why we did so well. And so, but the other side of it is, there's things in mobile and online banking that, don't necessarily, you can manage your account, but can you, log a case? Can you say I lost my ATM card and know that it's gotten handled, right? So you start to look at, how do you, support digital or assisted? The truth is no one's a mobile banker, right? People are just they're a credit union member and they choose to use that channel. They also call people when they have a problem, right? So we need to help people resolve that problem. And those other interactions are an opportunity to grow the relationship. If we can simplify the work so that the team member that gets the inbound call or the branch walk-in is able to one click, dispute a transaction or start that case and make that easy, update address. Instead of cutting and pasting across a lot of systems, we simplify their work, and that provides an opportunity for them to talk to the member about other needs. So tearing down, I started off with, credit unions were built a product at a time, a system at a time. Yet the member relationship really spans those systems. And while they may be systems of interaction or systems of record, they're not necessarily the best system to really know and serve the member and bring things together. So how we simplify work is starting to get them to get team members to the same system that actually gets used in call center and branch, and again, you don't have to eat the elephant all at once, but even in back office, so that we take out internally the inefficiencies that are getting in the way of growing the relationship. I said, part of the challenge is, asset growth, may be great, but what does your headcount growth have to be? And what is your expense growth to support that asset growth? And, can we grow without, first, can we empower people to be, get more done, or make it easier for them to get things done for the member? And that's going to deliver on a great member experience, both the member, when they request something, knowing it's gotten resolved, and the member becoming aware of other things that they might utilize in the credit union relationship, personal line of credit, other products or services, and making it easy for them to become aware of why that product would be better for them, and even onboarding that relationship and serving that relationship.
Let me ask you this. A couple of things that we were talking about before, and when I was kind of looking at my notes, was this idea of transforming credit unions with CRM. And something that you were just talking about, it sounds like this also plays in, where you're taking the back office and the front office, and it's not just the products, right? Like, it's about delivering those, across the whole organization. What does that credit union look like today? Or what is that? Maybe a better question is for the credit union who's like, I'm not there. What does that credit union look like in the future for them? What do they look like?
So that's a really big question, but I think it's a great question, Randy, and you could tell you've been involved in it really is, something that everybody can measure. Is it easier to do more business with me as a member? So does the member feel about their credit union? Is it more easy for me to do more business with the credit union than it is to go get a credit card from Chase or go get a mortgage from Citi? We have a relationship. Is it getting easier and easier for more value to make it into that relationship? So, today, bringing it all together in a member 360, a lot of people talk about that single pane of glass where I can see what's going on with the member. That is necessary, but it's not sufficient, right? Bringing information together doesn't solve the problem. You've actually got to simplify work. So, an action center where I can dispute a transaction. If all you're doing is creating that single pane of glass, but they have to go and jump over to other systems to get things done, that doesn't really deliver on the promise, and you won't get the adoption. We're currently serving over a million associates and 1 billion accounts globally. Yet we're relatively unknown because it's not, well, I shouldn't say that. We're growing and being known, but it's not about us. It's really, and their ability to serve better. And everybody talks about that, but let's really look at discrete examples, right? Like I was saying to you before, are you doing pre-approved offers? When you pull a credit report, to issue a loan, do you basically put it, away in a loan package, never to be seen again? Or are we harnessing that data to help a member get out of debt, to bring the products and services to that member? So the future of the credit union is as your personal financial assistant, not just your personal financial advisor. No one wants to hire no one enjoys cleaning their own home, or at least that, it's not my favorite thing to do, or my wife. So we have somebody help us with that, but we don't have that person come in and point out where the dirt is. We actually, that person comes in and helps us clean it. So how are we helping people in that financial, doing the work, not just providing advice, but I don't know if I froze a little bit, so hopefully the audio is okay there, but not just giving the advice, but really helping them get it done, right? And you really think about it, and how do we, right now, is the front line, able to get a service request done quickly, right? Are they able, do we know what cases are outstanding? Does the member have to call back in to find out what's going on, or do we have to call out versus just giving them an alert? Oh, this has gotten done. This is, so again, some of those are taking out the interactions that are waste and creating interactions that'll be of new value. Do we have anything at the credit union today that's doing keep in touch? A lot of people talk about a 222, right? After a member gets a product, the onboarding of the member. And we could talk about digital onboarding, which we help with, but that's right. Somebody starts a relationship or has a relationship. How do you add value periodically? So we can talk about smart loans and smart savings, being new areas of product differentiation where you're using what you know about the member and what you should know about the member. And my favorite example is the credit bureau. If your doctor, took your blood one time and then never compared that blood test to another blood test or helped you use the blood test to really go on the health journey that you're looking for, those are, you probably wouldn't think that well of a doctor.
No,
but
right?
I'll give you another little tidbit, and we'll go back into your questions. But the average doctor can manage 2,000 to 2,500 patients, and most of us don't think of doctors being the most efficient, or healthcare being the most efficient system. But that's the ratio. If you look at members per employee, and then you look at member value per employee, there's really some opportunity for to do more and do better, but and grow those relationships and grow that membership. And so some of that future that you're asking about is really growing both how people access the credit union. I was very involved in helping create this technology that we're using today. The pandemic has really switched people. They can't just drive to the credit union. So a lot of things are getting done, through the call center, and things are getting done through drive-through. But the future of this, people are going to come to the branch, different ways. They're going to Zoom to it, right? You can make a appointment to get a haircut. Can you really make an appointment with someone, and do you have to go physically, or can you go virtually? And everybody's starting to do that. But then it's, what do you do in those appointments? When are you proactive with the member in terms of reaching out and saying, oh, we have, we'd love to look at your debts and help you consolidate, right? So remember, that credit report doesn't just show what you're doing with the credit union, but it also shows what they're doing with others. And then how do we create the products and services at the credit union that go across product, so that, as that person's savings grow? Most credit unions adjust your auto loan once a year when your FICO score changes. But, how do we do that same, type of thing to grow, the value of their debit card, and, and grow the value of the credit union's credit card, competing with United Plus, but understanding how to move their revolving debt, out of all these other players and get it, into a vehicle that they can pay it down more quickly and give them sort of incentives and value across product. So you mentioned, but tearing down the wall between digital and assisted, it's a member relationship. They're going to do things. They like to be alerted. They may want to speak to somebody, and when they speak to somebody, they want to be able to get what they need done very quickly. Yeah. But they also want that person they're talking to, and we've seen this, at Silver State Credit Union and others, where that interaction, when you've simplified the work, it provides, every one of those interactions becomes a time that, oh, the system's telling me, that you're pre-approved for this personal line or this credit card. Is that of interest to you? And then being able to, they say, oh, I did, see that marketing message, that would be, and make that onboarding experience, seamless and easy, the pre-approval seamless and easy, and the becoming aware of it in any channel, right? It's not just when they call in, but it can show up in the mobile app. And so we can use some other examples there, but my favorite is, people lose their ATM card. Yep. Or every credit union gets a card compromised list. So how do we manage the services that member needs, and organize that and simplify that and make sure that things are getting done efficiently, how do we make them aware of when something got done, right? So whether they, create that, and you don't have to change out Q2. Our platform allows you to bring new capabilities without them being coded, all configured, in the digital experience that hook to the other infrastructure in the member experience. So managing a complaint, creating a lead. Do you know the average credit union, 65% of leads and referrals fall on the floor? You expect a same-day response. Very, 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 very few are same-day response. When somebody shows interest, when somebody gets a referral, and there's so many at-bats that the referrals weren't even created. So that's just the ones that you already created. So that's not great member service, but it's very, very fixable. And but you need a system that's not just logging that thing, but making sure it gets followed up. Get it to the right person, and even auto assign it and allow the person to schedule an appointment, right? And so that while I'm saying to you, oh, you are interested in that HELOC, okay, and that lead has already been auto assigned to a loan officer, and I may be able to go into her calendar, and while I've got the member on the phone, schedule that appointment for that follow-up. Because even though you can simplify work, allows us to do more of a universal banker, goal. And by the way, our superpower is integrating bidirectionally with things like Core. So Scimitar, other, it's able to access their data in real time so that you can get to that single pane of glass that even goes down to transactions, but you can also do things there for the member, change of address, right? Or the other things that need to be done. And, that's some of what makes us fundamentally different from, and why I said we're the relationship multiplier, right? Instead of, relationship management, because the goal is to help multiply the value in that relationship.
Let me ask you this, as we get towards the end of the show, if there's been a ton of disruption, obviously, in financial services across the board over the last few years, none of us think that's going to slow down. Is there something you think credit unions need to do fundamentally different to stay relevant going forward? You mentioned, the McDonald's of banking or the Amazon of banking, or, there's a lot of different people that, in this space now.
Yeah. So, I think a little bit of this, my personal journey with credit unions, I've had I wouldn't be married if it wasn't for a credit union. I had started my first company when I was in high school, and, I tried to get an account with B of A, and I was a minor, they wouldn't do it. There's all sorts of hassle. I ended up at Wells Fargo, and, we can talk more about them over time, but, that relationship was a little bit better, but it wasn't easy to get, credit. And when I wanted to get married, I needed to, buy an engagement ring, and it was a credit union that did that for me. But that relationship went away. I was an employee at the university in the computer center, and that relationship started in a great way at a great part of my life, but there was no follow-up with me on my journey when I got my first job at a big insurance company, and then started to do digital transformation long before it was ever called that. But it comes back to, technology has a purpose, which is to simplify work. Technology actually is the great equalizer. An 8-year-old and an 80-year-old fly at the same speed in an aircraft. So how do credit unions have a partner, that we actually provide the infrastructure for the fastest growing, and largest institutions in the world. We have one institution that has 400 million accounts, another that grew from 7 million to 70 million. In making it work better for those organizations that wanted to make banking more inclusive globally and others, we learned what was missing in the infrastructure of a credit union. There needs to be sort of insight and knowledge, as I said, bring it together and turn it into value. But that starts with, hey, we got to empower team to simplify work. If we're going to drive growth, that growth is going to be growth in member value. So, answering your question very specifically, there's a lot of competition. Part of why credit unions are so important is that, the truth is democracy is a wonderful thing, when it works, and when, and when it protects rights. And you think about that, but the other side of it is it doesn't create opportunity. Every person who's listening to your podcast is truly responsible for us being the land of opportunity. We have 10,800 institutions in the US that will give you the financial means to get a car loan, get engaged, right? I mean, you think about those, fund an education, buy a house, petition. The next largest country in terms of lenders per capita is Germany with 900, right? Everybody else tends to have oligopoly banking. It's that competition, but so we have to keep that alive, right? That community involvement, that knowledge of team, that ability to grow. And yet, the competitors are pretty significant means, right? We could talk about the McDonald's of financial services and Chase and others. So they need a partner who's doing these things, really understanding their needs, and is only focused on this market and delivering the next generation of services. And that's really coming to what we were talking about, the credit bureau data, and how does that yield, a way to counsel a member? How do we where does that data go to live that makes it actionable? How do we, as I said, how do we be proactive and grow the relationship and your value, but not just be just another product, but be easier to work with, to make it easier to onboard that relationship and serve it and grow the value of that product, even adjusting, to that person's financial journey, right? Giving them incentives to save, giving them incentives to reduce their revolving debt that's outside of the credit union and do more business with the credit union. So I know that's, perhaps, it's, I guess the easiest way to look at this is everybody's contact center has been under burden. We're actually partnered with Amazon, and there's things we can do to bring them a contact center that has no cost per person. Okay, that's, and without all the plumbing and burden, but, really starting to transform the relationship, whether that member is calling in, or that member is messaging in, or that member is interacting in the mobile app, to get those needs known and acted upon. So managing that and allowing those interactions to also, make the member aware of other needs or other opportunities and grow the relationship. And I won't bore everybody, because so much of this is going first to help people resolve their urgent problems. Contact center for almost everybody got broken, but the other side of it is, why is the financial center not using the same infrastructure to become aware? Is the financial center, the people in branch, are they rollover for the contact center? The contact center or back office, are they using the same system so that everybody knows what got done for the member? And it's easy to message the member from back office, right? So everybody talks about, this disconnect between front office and back office. Well, why is that? Well, part of that is that system, there's a lot of email, there's a lot of other things that are done. People aren't aware of, where something is and how it's being managed. So you need to be able to have a system that's, helping you organize that and unify that information, and then really, the transformation and the experience.
That's good stuff. I'd like to do something we do to end every show. Have some fun with some rapid fire questions, just like we do on the CUInsight Experience podcast. So the questions are rapid. Your answers don't necessarily have to be, but we are getting to the end of our time. So the first question, I was excited to ask you this one. I've been excited to ask everybody this question, to tell you the truth, because we've all made some interesting purchases, I think, over the past year. Is there a purchase that you've recently made that you didn't know you needed and now you don't think you can live without?
Yes. I mean, there's a Bluetooth lighter. So it's funny, lighting candles, lighting, the fireplace, or lighting the barbecue. So instead of the butane lighter type thing, there's a rechargeable thing, and it makes a spark. And it's amazing. You never throw away a butane lighter again. You never, and again, I'm not a smoker, but we light candles in our house. We have, we have a, I mean, it's just funny how you look at that little device and go, gosh, that is so useful, and it's on Amazon, and they sell you 2 for $18, and it became the present I gave everyone.
You know what? I had never heard of this before, and on the second episode, Bolin Lee from Zogo also mentioned that, and I'd never heard of it before. This is amazing. Who knew? I've been missing out. All the tech guys are buying this later. When you hear the word success, who is the first person that comes to mind, and why?
Oh boy, that is such an amazing thing. Elon Musk comes to mind. He started his career in the world that we're talking about, the payments world, PayPal. He really did try to simplify payments. PayPal, it was hard to get a merchant account, so somebody had to make it easy to create a merchant account so that you could buy from eBay, right, and continue to in that path. But you really look at us looking at what we can do. And, we talked a little bit before this about, I'm really proud of our country, as it, really leads innovation. And, Alon's, not only on the electrical vehicle side where he bet his entire, net worth, right, that was hard earned, to really transform the auto industry. And now he's doing it to
it's paid off.
Yes, it's paid off. So I greatly admire him because I truly believe he believes there are simple solutions to hard problems, and that's really at the core guiding principle too. If you understand the problem, there are ways to actually resolve it very quickly, and it doesn't all require rocket science.
Absolutely. So the random question: what's the greatest album of all time?
Oh, I gotta say Beatles, Abbey Road.
There you go. I will say on the podcast, the Beatles have come up a bunch. That's for sure. You can't go wrong there. Is there any book that you've gifted over the years, or that that singular book that you're like everyone should read?
Wow, that's another great question. And one book that I've gone back and read is Michener's The Source, which is a huge book. So giving it to somebody, I'm not sure if you're giving them a gift or a burden, but there's something about it that sort of talks about, the evolution of technology and the evolution of beliefs and awareness of different needs. And, it's a fascinating book. So it's a hard read, for some people because it's long, but it's actually, it's so relevant in so many ways and so research. It teaches you history, and why behind things in a way that I've really enjoyed. So I would put that on everybody's list, but I do admit that it's one, it's easy to read and it's in vignettes. So it's one of those books that it doesn't leave you on cliffhangers, so you don't lose your sleep over reading it. But
I'm gonna have to. I've not read that book. That's you just added to my list. So we'll link to everything that we talked about today in the show notes. The last question that I have for you is: do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners, or an ask of all the credit union folks out there?
Well, so I've got two things that I'll suggest. First is you don't need to do a core conversion. I mean, and there are partners of ours that will be mad at me for saying this, but they're really there's opportunities to unlock the potential of the infrastructure you already have. And there's just been a missing system at the credit union to get that job done. And we're happy to work with people and show them the way that we were doing that for others and how they can do that for themselves. So I go there because I do think we've helped players beat Ant Financial. If you look at Ant Financial as sort of the next coming of Amazon in financial services, and most people know that Amazon's become a lender, and we understand where that win is, and it's in the thing that credit unions stand for, which is truly relationships. Very few people have relationships with McDonald's of financial services. They just have convenience. What every credit union needs to stand for is convenience and care. And there's ways for you to be more nimble and do that job in a way that really doesn't lose me as a member after you made it possible for me to get. There's ways we can do that really resonate with young people today. But I'll give everybody here on the call on the podcast who's listened all the end something that they can do today that will possibly affect their organization, growth, I think it probably add 2%, while it's also, changing sort of the thinking of an organization. And I start with, how do you greet somebody when you meet them, or how do you greet them when they, hi, I'm Joe Salesky, can I help you, right? And, it's sort of a question, I'm not sure, you're not sure, right? And that's the wrong, if we change the words just slightly, and if every credit union greets the member and says, hi, Randy, I'm Joe, I can help you. It's a commitment, not a question. Start with that commitment and look at how you help live to that commitment, right? That we can help you. And, if there's anything everybody takes away, switch those words and try to live to a commitment that you make every time you interact with a member. Hi, Randy, I'm Joe. I can help you. And, that is either getting them to who they need to get to or getting them what they need done. And, how do we empower them, to really transform the experience? And some of that is simplifying the work so that they can do it. But there's other attributes of it that, live behind, I can help you.
I absolutely love that. That is the perfect way to wrap up. Thank you again, my friend, for being on the show. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to once we're all moving about again, seeing you in person. So thank you again, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Randy. And thank you to everybody who's listening to the podcast for what you're doing every day. You're helping us through the pandemic, and you're really helping us become the land. Thank you very much.
Be well. I'll talk to you soon.